And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's up, everyone? What's up, RBLR Nation? What's up, my fellow co-hosts? Hope everyone's having a good week, day, night. Hope you're living lavish, just living the dream, doing whatever you want to do, just doing your thing. It's been a very uneventful week. It's been, slow news week. Just not a lot going on in the Bucs world, really in the NFL in general, to be quite honest. I mean, other than the Jalen Hurts extension, but, that was kind of just Jalen Hurts is amazing. He got a lot of money. That's kind of all there is to say. There just wasn't really a lot going on this week. But I can't continue talking before I introduce my two wonderful co-hosts. Back after missing last week in Kentucky, Mr. Zach Blaine. Say hello to the world for us.
What is going on, guys? I sure did miss y'all.
Oh, we missed y'all too. Oh,
Kentucky was so much fun. I just love it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really just went to Buc-ee's. I had to drop the boys off to their mom for the weekend, so I got to go to Buc-ee's, and I mean their beef jerky is phenomenal. So I'll take any Buc-ee's trip, I guess.
Any excuse to go to Buc-ee's,
right? Exactly.
And now our second co-host, who I don't know how his feelings are about Buc-ee's, but he's certainly looking fly and fresh with the backwards hat. Got the little polo on. Musab Tariq, say hello to everyone.
Well, first and foremost, I am a pro Buc-ee's fan. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
I pulled up. Oh yeah, there's a Buc-ee's around like St. Augustine, and long story short, I went there and I bought a bunch of stuff just cause it's Buc-ee's.
Dude,
oh yeah.
The first time I went to Buc-ee's, I swear to God, we went in and I spent $180. Didn't even know what I spent $180 on.
Yeah. Wow. Oh yeah, I don't blame you, man. I dropped about maybe $40, and my parents got some stuff, about another $40. But they got some gas station stuff or whatever. But no, I told myself I know about Buc-ee's because I have a buddy from Texas, and he's like, oh, man, there's no gas station like Buc-ee's, and I was like, oh, okay, really? And then I saw Buc-ee's in St. Augustine. Anyways. Long story short, man, Buc-ee's is the move. But also, I'll tell you what, this as well as Buccaneers. I'm just happy to be back here. I think Buccaneers are the move. Ladies and gentlemen, don't put your head down. Don't put your head down. I'm not going to say it's going to be a sunshine and rainbow season, but I'll tell you this. We're in for a treat. We are in for a treat. I think it's time to really think about, wow, we don't have Tom Brady anymore. Okay, well, yeah, we have just a regular quarterback. So I'm just happy to talk about, some football with the boys. We got Zach and Carter in the house with me. So that's really about it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, me and Zach are looking bummy compared to you, but,
Right? That's what I'm saying, man.
That's always the case. So, I mean,
We're used to it by now.
Anything different. But we'll get right into it. Next week's the draft. So next week's episode should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. But until then, we're going to kind of ramp up to it, have a little bit of setup at the, in the second half of the show. We'll talk more specifically about prospects. We're going to talk about the secondary, especially, which is, a big need for the Bucs. It's what we thought was their top need. But before we get into all that, we'll kind of address some kind of overarching draft themes, just because, next week's mock draft, that's what we're doing next week. So we're going to kind of get into it. So far we've talked about a crap ton of prospects, just a bunch of guys coming out of college. So is there anyone that really stands out that's your favorite? No doubt about it, needs to be in a Bucs uniform. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. Just a guy that, maybe you read about or did some research on, and you're like, wow, this guy could make a huge difference for this Bucs roster. Zach, we'll start with you. Who's your favorite prospect that we've covered so far?
Yeah, I think that we've covered so far. My favorite prospect is one that I actually covered, and that's Lucas Van Ness. I think that he would bring instant impact to that defensive line and get the much-needed hits on the quarterback that we kind of seemed to lack at some points last season.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good one. If he drops to 19, I have a hard time believing that the Bucs will pass on him. So yeah, he's definitely a really, really good one. Definitely glad you brought him up. Musab, how about you? Who's your favorite, prospect that you can say any of us have covered so far?
I'm thinking offensive line. As I mentioned already before last week, I'm looking at someone like a big dog like the Juan Jones. Someone who gives me like a little DeMar DeBoston vibe. Uh, Someone who can get real physical. You know what I'm saying? That's my priority. We have to protect whoever a quarterback is. It's going to be a little quarterback battle. I'm leaning, as we all know, I'm leaning more towards Baker Mayfield, but no matter who it is, I'll tell you this, man. We have to protect the quarterback. That's my top priority. With a little bit of a sprinkle on this defensive back situation. Oh yeah, oh
All
yeah,
right, hey, we're definitely going to get into that. But I
yeah.
definitely love that you went offensive tackle because it's not the sexy position. It's not the fun. Oh, it's a playmaker, it's a skill position. No, it's kind of boring. It's not really spoken about. There's not a tangible statistic to measure offensive linemen. But it's one of the most important positions on the field still. So definitely, really, really like that pick for sure. Mine is I know it's y'all. Our producer's going to roll his eyes, but Kayshon Boutte out of LSU, wide receiver. I
Who'd have
think,
thunk?
as Musab says, a diamond in the rough. He had an awful season last year, but good Lord, he's an LSU wide receiver. Those dudes always come out to play. OBJ, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, the list, Jarvis Landry, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So, they have some ballers, and I think he's just going to be the next in a long, long line of very successful receivers to come out of the Louisiana State University. But, I don't know how high of a priority that position really is. I don't know if he drops to the third or fourth round. There are a lot of factors, but that's just my personal favorite. So, yeah, Kayshon Boutte, that's my guy. So moving on. We're kind of still looking at the draft, but are there any? Musab mentioned offensive tackle, or offensive line rather. Zach, is there any position that you really like? If the Bucs don't pick this specific position in the draft, no matter where it is, you would be shocked. You would just be like, "Wow, that was just a missed opportunity."
So I think that depends on the whole Devin White situation.
Okay.
Because at this point, I mean, I know that I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about, if he wants out, let him out.
Sure.
I've not been a very big, not the biggest fan of him, and not based off of skill or anything. He's a great player, but I think that if we decide to let him go, I think we need to address linebacker in the draft, and that's something that a week and a half ago we wouldn't have had to even think about. But with this news coming out, I think that that's going to be somewhere that if we don't at least address it a little bit, I'd be kind of shocked.
For sure. So let's say Devin White stays, though. Is there maybe a position that you'd look at? Look, because the Bucs seem bound and determined to keep him on the roster for better or for worse. Jason Light is saying he's going to remain a Buc. So let's say that happens. Is there another position that maybe you're looking at and thinking, you really need to address that one?
I mean, as weird as it sounds, we talk about having all these holes, and I can't think of one that we haven't discussed. I mean, the flashy answer is running back and go after a guy like Bijan Robinson, who I would love to have on the team. Do I think that that's realistic? I mean, I don't know, but I would say that if they don't draft a running back at some point, I'd be pretty shocked too.
Okay, running back. Musab, you mentioned earlier offensive line. Is that going to be your official answer, or are you maybe leaning towards
another? That's my official answer. Oh yeah, that's my official answer. I think I have a lot of high hopes, or I'm optimistic with the running back situation. Not that I think that it's ideal, but I'll tell you this is like, for me, my priorities, I'm looking at offensive line and defensive back. You know what I'm saying? So we talking O-line, as we already mentioned beforehand. I want a big dog out there. I want someone to protect whoever a quarterback is. That's really about it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with Musab. I know it's a lazy thing to pick the same one as the last guy, but it's true. It's the truth. Their offensive line play, it was the worst position group on the team last year. They didn't gain anyone. In fact, they lost Shaq Mason. I mean, you could say, they're getting back a healthy Ryan Jensen, but I don't know. The offensive line play was just incredibly poor last year. They also lost a left tackle for better, of course.
I was going to say, we didn't lose much.
Right. Of course.
We're happy about that one.
they still need to replace the position. I guess
Yeah.
is my ultimate point. They lost Donovan Smith, and they still haven't found a replacement yet through free agency. So they gained Matt Leifer last week. We discussed him on the episode, but they still need a long-term solution, in my opinion, because Tristan Wirfs is really the only long-term solidified solution at that position. So I just like Musab said, it's incredibly important to protect the quarterback.
Now, I saw somewhere, it may have been Tristan Wirfs came out and said that the Dave Canales' system seems to be easier on the offensive linemen. I feel like we're forgetting that wasn't Luke Gadecki like a second-round pick.
Right? But how did he play last year? How did he look
at a new position, at a new level?
I feel you, but if you're gonna, it's just tough because if you're gonna pull the second round card, it is difficult because he didn't play like a second round pick.
Agreed, and there's no disagreement with that.
Right, but I am with you. It is tough to spend so many high level draft picks on a certain position. But like me and Musab said, it's difficult because they're still losing a bunch of guys at that position. So offensive line's my pick, but who knows? So we've talked about our favorite player and a position that we really think needs to be addressed. Is there any positions that we missed? Zach mentioned linebacker and running back. Musab, are there any positions that you think of other than the five that were, or the fifth one we still haven't mentioned, but other than the five that we've listed, are there any positions that you think, oh man, we still need to address that one a little bit?
I don't think so. I think we should just play by the ear. Not really by the ear, but just whatever we can do. I am satisfied with what we've done, during this off season. When it comes to these random free agents we picked and all that, but my priority is still I'm looking at DB and offensive line when it comes to the draft. Afterwards, I'm open to anything, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Musab, you make a great point. I think this is going to be a very heavy best player available draft. They're not going to draft strictly, oh, well, we need this position here, this position here. No, I don't think they have a priority list. I think, like you said, they're just going to kind of play it by ear. I mean, obviously they'll have certain guys that they like, but I think that they are certainly going to go just by their board, best guy there. So it is kind of an interesting draft in that respect, because like we've been saying, there's just not a lot of long-term solutions at a lot of positions for the Bucs. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a best player available type of draft. Zach, how about you? Maybe you disagree. Maybe there's a position that you're looking at.
Yeah, no, I think like going off of positions that we've already covered, I think that we've covered the biggest needs, and I think that it's just at this point you're spot on. It's going to be the best player available. I think that there's nowhere they could not use somebody, if that makes sense at all. We could draft anybody anywhere on offense or defense, and I would feel like, all right, you know what, I could see where he fits in.
For sure.
I don't think that there's anywhere to say this is where we need to focus. I think the best player available mindset is probably the best one to have right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're kind of all in consensus in that regard, just because, the Bucs just have such a kind of weird old roster, but they're also not really in a position to win.
It's such a weird situation because you're right. Like, we are old, but then we also have some young talent. It's just the strangest combination of a team I've ever seen.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the head coach situation's in flux. Who knows how long Todd Bowles is going to be there? So it's like all this talk is very who knows? We're all. I mean, any draft conversation is going to be a crapshoot, but this one seems to be especially so, which is very very interesting. So I mean, is there any? So speaking kind of in the missed positions place, are there any prospects that you think of that maybe we missed in the last few episodes? I mean, any draft prospects that you thought, well, oh man, I kind of missed out on that guy. Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, the groups of guys that I had, I would have 2 or 3 guys per round. Mm-hmm. And every time I'd have 2 or 3 guys, one of you guys would pick up the other one. So I always felt like everyone that I wanted to discuss or had the need to discuss, we've kind of discussed.
For sure. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. We did cover a lot of guys, and we definitely bounced ideas off of each other. So that is a good point. But mine was definitely a running back out of Georgia, Kenny McIntosh. I don't know. I love running backs out of Georgia. I mean, you look at guys like Nick Chubb, a guy like DeAndre Swift. I mean, it seems like it's a weird thing to say that schools have positions that they produce, but it's true. You know, Penn State's LBU, LSU's kind of DBU / wide receiver U, and Georgia's got everything because they're national championships back to back. But the running back room seems to be producing some really, really high level talent. So I love Kenny McIntosh. I think he'd be a great value pick in like the 4th or 5th round. Just kind of another running back to complement the running back room. But Musab, how about you? Was there any prospect that you wish we might have talked about?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, not wish that we talked about, but I'll tell you this. One hot take I have is, towards the 6th and 7th round. I'm looking towards the 6th round. If we're not happy with Trask, and I wouldn't be surprised if the organization is not happy with Trask, I think we should find someone else, in the later rounds. I'm talking later round. One guy I was thinking about, was Clayton Tune from the University of Houston. Oh, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm just thinking, I'm looking for someone maybe in the late rounds. Once we take care of business, I think quarterback is not a priority at all, but I think we should make the game a little bit more competitive. Um, I've said this over and over again, but I used to be on the Trask train, but I'm anti-Trask train now. But clearly, something's wrong if this guy hasn't got that much playing time. You know what I'm saying? If you're
For
going
sure.
second round, this guy should have been second string. This guy should have been behind Brady. He should have learned from Brady, but Gabbert took his spot, and I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess he deserved it, but that's what I always wanted out of Trask. You know what I'm saying? I wanted him to
Yeah.
be that next, not that next Brady, but the next guy. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
Gabbert's an old head. You know what I'm saying? He's experienced. He's like the Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Of the
don't you
Buccaneers.
disrespect Ryan Fitzpatrick like that.
Oh no, hey, I love me I love me that fits money, but business is business, and I think you know what I think maybe just we should maybe think about it just in the later rounds, in the
See,
later rounds.
so
And
you brought up quarterback, and I think that's a great spot, and it's kind of hurt my feelings a little bit lately because Hendon Hooker is now like, for some reason, everyone has interest in Hendon Hooker. I mean, not for some reason. I understand why.
Yeah.
But he was like a 3rd round pick at some point, and now they're talking about like he could potentially still go in the 1st round. I mean it's crazy, but realistically, like I could see it because he is that talented, I think.
For sure.
But I was always hopeful that Tampa would be like, all right, well, we'll spend a 3rd round pick on him if he slides the 3rd round. Now I think there's 0% chance him sliding to the 3rd round. I would not be shocked to see him late in the 2nd round or late in the 1st round just because of that 5th-year option. So he was a guy that I wish we would have had the chance to, but I don't think we're going to unless we take him at 19.
No, we're gonna get some. We're gonna get some like if we do get a quarterback, I think we're gonna get some guy in the later round.
It'll be like a Stetson Bennett or a Max Dugan, however you say his last name. Someone like
that's why
late rounds.
Typical pocket passer or something like that. We'll see how it plays out, but that's just one thing. I'm just like, all right, just to make the game a little bit more competitive, I think we should get some, late round draft, or maybe we sign some free agent. Oh man, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, y'all made some great points about the quarterback position. I'm a big fan of Hendon Hooker as well, Zach. It's tough though because he's going to miss that first season more than likely because of his injury in college. So he's kind of getting drafted with a red shirt automatically applied to him, which can be a good thing. A lot of quarterbacks have sat for a year and been very successful. So this would kind of force a team to sit him down and be like, all right, learn what it means to be a quarterback in the NFL, which can be very advantageous. I mean, like I said, a lot of very successful quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. So, we'll see if that happens with a team. There's a really interesting rumor going around by Trey Lance right now. The 49ers have an interesting quarterback situation kind of in flux. Aaron Rodgers' name is no longer being linked exclusively to the Jets. He could be going to the Titans, so the Titans could be, giving up on Malik Willis. Maybe they'll draft. It's a lot of things in the air right now when it comes to quarterbacks. So the Bucs are just one of those teams that are like that. So, we'll see what they do. I would love to see them spend a 6th or 7th round pick on the position because, like Musab said, needs to be competition with Trask for that backup role because he just hasn't really seemed to seize any opportunities, which is unfortunate for a 2nd round pick. But what has seized some opportunities is the RBLR store. That place has done a great job of just producing, ain't no problem with them. They can be a 1st round pick and they're going to give you 1st round pick results. Whether you're looking for Rays, Bucks, Lightning, or Rowdies gear, check it out. shop.rblrsports.com. If you were going to give you a promo code too, since it's, the draft's about to happen, we want to wear that Bucks gear celebrating the draft. So promo code is Cannon, CANNONS. Type that bad boy in and you can get 10% off everything in the store. So after that shameless shot plug, we will get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. We're going to be talking secondary, cornerbacks, safeties, because the Bucs need them. I mean, good Lord, they just have such a small number of guys that are actually on the roster that play in the secondary. So we just decided to merge the two because goodness gracious, they're going to spend at least 1 or 2 picks on this position, whether it's safety or corner. So we'll kind of just get right into it. We're going to start with the 1st or 2nd round prospects because let's face it, those are the most exciting guys to talk about. Musab, we'll start with you. Who's your 1st or 2nd round prospect when it comes to the secondary?
I'm looking at Mr. It's Kelee Ringo.
Yep, out of Georgia
cornerback. And the reason why I chose him, we're looking at the defensive back situation. This guy's a dog. All right. You could say that about a lot of guys, but I'll tell you this, his awareness is off the charts. You know what I'm saying? I think he would be a really good fit in a zone kind of situation. There's a lot of stuff to work on. I feel like sometimes, he doesn't really wrap up and all that, but I think he's got that, kind of football IQ. He just seems like a complete corner, The guy's like kind of built like a safety, but he knows how to get after it. That's what it is. So that's why I'm going Kelee Ringo, just because I think he's a good potential prospect pick. I have a lot of high hopes for him. I'll tell you this, wherever this guy lands, he's going to be successful. I'm telling you, this guy's come from a championship team. He's amazing. I'll tell you this, on the weakness side, maybe I already mentioned already, but he is a little bit too physical. That's my only issue. I was thinking about, the guys you chose and the guys I chose. And looking at Ringo, I was like, wow, this guy's good, but he's a little too physical. So, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. It's better to be physical than less physical. It's easier to calm down to than to build up that physicality, that aggressiveness. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So all it takes is he gets drafted. A defensive coordinator or head coach tells him, calm down a little bit. He calms down a little bit, but I'm telling you, this guy's gonna make it big. No matter what team he ends up being on, he's gonna be successful. I really do think so, and I wish him all the best. Seriously, if he doesn't end up being on the Bucs, but that's my guy, Kelee Ringo.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his. He is, in my opinion, he's like the DK Metcalf of corners. He's freaking huge. Like he's 6'2", and he also has like a 4.3 40. So he's just like, how does that happen for a cornerback? So I'm a huge fan of his as well, Musab. I'm right there with you. He was kind of, he was a top prospect coming out of high school. Probably the best cornerback of his high school, his class. And a lot of people had him as maybe the best cornerback in this draft class.
Yeah,
his stock kind of fell a little bit, which it's tough to see. But yeah, if he's there at the 2nd round, because that's kind of the money spot that a lot of people have him. The Bucs could easily take him. He would be a really great, really, really great future starter. Or he could line up as kind of a 3rd corner, however they see him fitting in. Zach, how about you? Who's your 1st or 2nd round prospect?
Yeah, so I had two here. I decided on one. My honorable mention is Joey Porter Jr. I think that
You're a huge fan of his. Yeah, you're
yeah,
a big
I'm a
fan.
huge fan, but I've talked about him previously on the show and how much I like him and how much I wanted him to be a Buck. So I went with my second guy, who is Julius Brents out of Kansas State, who I know Kansas State, like who watches Kansas State really, but this man came out, showed out, balled out at the Senior Bowl, which is kind of where I started to take notice of him. But I mean, he stands at 6'3", like 200 pounds. He's just one of the best jump ball defenders that I've seen in college football in a long time. Which I think obviously the 6'3" plays a role in that because that's a good corner. He's just got the perfect combination of like height and length, and runs a 4.53. So he's not the quickest, but when you have that kind of reach, you don't really necessarily have to be the quickest. I guess the one knock on him, in my opinion, is he's kind of worried about being a big time playmaker. So he loses himself a lot of times in coverage because he's keeping an eye on the quarterback too much.
Mhm.
And I guess that's probably the only negative thing in my book on Julius Brents.
Yeah, that's kind of brings to mind Marcus Peters. He's kind of gotten in trouble for chasing interceptions a lot
Yep,
over the years.
100%.
A bit of Trayvon Diggs as well. Trayvon Diggs has a tendency to really be aggressive and bite on double moves because he's anticipating Minka Parsons getting
Yep.
there. So
Yep.
he's gonna hustle his ass off to get a pick. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Julius Brents. I'd be interested to see as his career progresses if he maybe shifts to safety just because he's just such a big body and he seems to be a pretty solid tackler. Maybe not. That's kind of a very, very much in the future and a very much, kind of a
Yeah,
take.
and I mean that was one of the other things that I liked about him was his run
Mhm.
defense is very solid for a corner. Like normally corners you don't
Yeah,
even
he's not
get mentioned about their run defense,
right. They're not
but
a good tackler. Right.
that's one of the things that a lot of the scouts have been bringing up is that his run defense is very solid.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy his size, you better be a darn good run defender.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of fits with the mold of what Bucs look for. The Bucs seem to look for in corners. I mean, Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean are both excellent in the run game. They love good tackling corners. So yeah, I mean, those were two really, really high quality guys. My guy's Brian Branch, safety out of Bama. He's definitely going to be a first round guy. He's just versatile as hell. He's kind of a one size fits all kind of guy, safety, nickel, linebacker. He can play a lot of different positions. So he'd just be a really, really fun guy to plug into this Bucs defense because I feel like they've lacked position versatility for a while now. I mean, they signed Keanu Neal last year, who kind of is, but he's just at that point he was just too past his prime to really be one of those guys. But yeah, Branch is just he played for Alabama. I mean, it's just he'd be a really interesting guy to be a leader in the locker room as well. Whenever White and David leave, because both of them are likely on their way out. So they need a captain, a guy to kind of take over and lead the locker room. Zach, I know you're not a huge fan of him, but I don't know. I like the guy.
I like what he's put on tape. I just get major like Clinton Dix vibes from him. Kind of like he's gonna make some plays, but he's also not. And we remember Clinton Dix more because of his name, not because of what he did on the field.
Sure.
I think that he has the potential to be really good. I just have this like fear of Alabama players. They're either great or not good at all. So there's like not really an in-between ground when it comes to Alabama players in the NFL.
Huh. I guess I definitely see where you're coming from for sure. Yeah, I mean, the school bias is hard to get past. I'm the same way. If it's a Pac-10 guy, I kind of cringe, and
yeah,
I know you're a Pac-12 guy or a Pac-10.
No, but you're right, because that's how I think it's like SEC guys. I'm like, I mean, they're really not all they're cracked up to be, even though 99% of them are. I can admit when I'm wrong, but I just in my head there's still like a little voice going, well, they're not really that good. Like they're just okay.
All right. Well, we'll see. The bowl games have spoken, but let's neither here nor there.
That's fair.
I always have that memory of Joe Burrow throwing like 20 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the semifinal game, or last year Georgia lighting up TCU for like a 50+ point win or whatever the hell it was. But anyways, that's none of my business. We're moving on to the third or fourth round. Musab, who's your third or fourth round prospect for the secondary?
I'm looking at I think Jordan Battle, but the way you kind of mentioned the third or fourth round situation. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the guy gets picked earlier. But I'll tell you this little Jordan Battle, Brian Branch situation. This is the hottest duo, when it comes to college football. All right. Oh yeah. All right. I was watching his highlights, and it was like three pick sixes. And during the highlight, I was like, oh my Lord. I was like, yikes. I was like, dang, this guy might be him. I'll tell you this guy comes through. You know what? I was watching him, and I was, really trying to learn him just because I heard a lot of good things about him. And he came through during the Auburn game. I don't know, for all my college football fans, this guy came through with a defining block play, or not a block play, but a defining play against Bigsby in the Auburn game. And he saved Bama. But this guy's got the size as well. I think this is what we need. I think he would be a steal at this point. But I'll tell you this: the more that I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if someone got him. You know what? Because the way you mentioned it, Carter. Carter, I actually, I'll take that back, Carter. I don't know, I don't know what conference you want, but I'll tell you this: I rep SEC. The way Zach runs that Pac-10. I love me some SEC football. You know what I'm saying? I got my utmost respect for LSU, Georgia, Florida, Bama. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So for that reason, I'm going Jordan Battle, safety for the
Now,
University of Alabama.
I think that's a great pick. Like, I love Jordan Battle. I know I just talked trash on Alabama players, but I love Jordan Battle. I think
But-
I think that if we could get him in the third round, that'd be the steal of the draft.
I'll tell you this: if he's available at that time, I am putting my hands.
Oh,
like this.
100%.
Oh yeah, I think he's a steal. I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets him. I think he's more of a somewhat of a reach. Man, he's a beast. You know what I'm saying? This is what we need. And let me tell you something. With all these guys we talk about, they all have their weaknesses. But for me, I'll tell you this: I think he can really fix his weaknesses ASAP. You know what I'm saying? Once you reach the big league, the big dogs and all that, he's got the size, the speed, the arm strength, or not the arm strength, but yeah, the arm strength as well, but the arm length. Yeah, the arm length as well. You know what I'm saying? This is one of my favorite picks. I'm serious. I really do think that if we're looking at DB, I think we should really kind of go for him or someone like him. I mean, I love y'all's guys as well, so I'm open to it as well. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard great things about Jordan Battle. That's why I kind of peeked into it. Watch the highlights. This guy's got something in him. I'm serious.
Agreed.
I'm very optimistic. Whatever team he lands up on, I'll tell you this: he's gonna be successful. Seriously. But it all comes down to how bad all these prospects really want it. That's also what it is. So who's got that heart? So I don't know. With Nick Saban whipping whipping all them boys, I feel like Bama. All these Bama boys got something in them. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm going Jordan Battle.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jordan Battle as well. Yeah, I mean, he's an SEC guy. He's not smoking on that booth pack, that mid pack that the Pac-12 always bringing up. Anyways, sorry, I don't mean to keep hating on the Pac-12, but
Hey, you're good. You're good, man.
But now we're moving on to Zach. Who's your secondary guy?
So my secondary guy is Jamie Robinson
Mhm.
out of FSU. It's FSU. I don't like talking good about him because I think that I just don't like him. But this guy, comes in at like 5'11". Like, he's not a very big dude. He's a little bit taller than me, and I'm nowhere near as talented or athletic as this man is. He comes in and he will light anybody up. Like, for being so small, he's one of the hardest hitters that I've seen, like, at the safety position at that size. And the ability to he could play safety, he could play nickel, he could play slot. Like, I think that he is the perfect, like, utility tool that Tampa could use. And I think that with him being able to kind of play multiple positions. He could be like we're filling up 2 needs with 1 pick, and I think that brings more value to me with him. Some of the negatives, like he just takes terrible angles, and with him being so aggressive, from what I believe, he's had a little bit of penalty problems, but I can't confirm nor deny that.
Right, and he's a bit undersized, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you see a lot of undersized safeties that are just ball hawks. They're just all over the field. They got I hate to say it like this, but they kind of got the little man syndrome. They
Yeah,
make up
exactly.
size with a really high motor, high energy level, and that seems to be Jamie Robinson, kind of that Tyrann Mathieu honey badger kind of mold. Which I love the versatility guys. We've been talking about a lot of them. And Jamie Robinson's certainly one of them because, the Bucs need to be able to draft guys that can come in and contribute immediately, with all the roster holes that we've been talking about. So they need to hit on some of these early round picks and just have them be starters, especially since, last year, Logan Hall and Luka Decky are by no stretch of the imagination solidified starters, and that's a bummer. That sucks. So they kind of need to make up for some kind of disappointing draft decisions over the past couple of years. But anyways, kind of getting off track with that little discussion. But my guy is Eli Ricks, another Bama guy. We keep bringing him up. He's more of a traditional corner. He would certainly be kind of a 3rd or 4th round guy for sure. He'd be maybe more of a long-term replacement or more of a depth piece, maybe not an immediate contributor. So that might be a reason for the Bucs to kind of stay away from him because he wouldn't really be a nickel guy. He wouldn't be a good fit. But as we've seen over the years, the Bucs have experienced plenty of secondary injuries. And Zion McCollum last year, as much as, he was a 6th round pick. You can't hate on a guy for being a 6th round pick and then coming in and kind of playing like a 6th round pick. They still need to address the position. They still need to fill out, some 3rd or 4th corner guys, and he would just be one of those guys. He played a lot at LSU, but he transferred to Bama after the coaching change, and he didn't play for the first half of the season. It was kind of weird. He's just a very raw kind of player. He's got a lot of raw ability, just not a lot of recent tape in recent years, and he can kind of be a little bit, unhinged at times when it comes to, just the techniques and keeping up with the down the field threats can be a bit of a problem for him. But that's why he's a 3rd or 4th round guy. If he was a 1st or 2nd round guy, a lot of these weaknesses, they wouldn't be there. So speaking of guys with a lot of weaknesses, we are moving on to the day 3 prospect. So it's tough because as you get into these later rounds, they're very much, we've talked about this in previous episodes, they're very much high risk, high reward, but kind of high risk guys too, because they could really not pan out. We're getting into day 3. Who's y'all's day 3 prospect? We'll start with you, Zach. Who's your guy for the 5th, 6th, and 7th round?
Well, boys, we come to my final pick, and y'all are over here talking your shit about the SEC and the SEC. Well, I'm going with the Pac-12 guy, damn it. And not only am I going with the Pac-12 guy, I'm going with an Oregon State guy. There's 2 you could have gone with, but I went with Rajon Wright. He is legitimately my favorite player in this draft. I know that he's not even close to a top talent in this draft. I think he has the skill and potential to be an above average starter. I'm not going to say Pro Bowler or even great starter, but I do think that he has potential to be an above average starter at some point. He's not a guy who's going to come in and start day 1. And if he does, that team should not even be playing in the NFL. So he's just a guy who can play, again, kind of like he's almost strictly an outside guy, but I think that if we were to move him and play him at the slot, I think he has the ability to do it. The biggest knocks on him are just like he's kind of impatient. So when it comes to double routes or anything that involves like a stop and go, which I guess technically is still a double route, he's real eager to bite on the low route because again he wants to make a play. He's a guy who's come up through the junior college ranks. He was at Laney College, I believe, when they were on the there's that Netflix show, whatever that Netflix
Last
show was.
Chance U.
Yeah, Last Chance U. When Laney was on it, he was on that. And he transferred to Oregon State after that season, and he's been honorable Pac-12 mention. The first season he was there, and I believe he was Pac-12 All-American or All Pac-12 last season. So he's a guy who I really do think is set up to be very good in the future, not necessarily right away.
For sure. They really should call it the All Boof Pac-12 team, but that's but no, all jokes aside, I actually had the Bucs picking him in a recent mock draft that I wrote for Bucs Report, because I'm with you. In the later rounds, they want to take a guy that maybe is a long-term solution. He seems to have, the willingness to play a little bit of special teams too, which is important for the late round guys. So yeah, he'd be a really, really good fit. I would love for the Bucs to take, one of those versatile pieces that can maybe play nickel in the early rounds with the secondary, and then maybe take a guy like Mr. Wright in the later rounds, kind of more of a depth piece. That would be kind of the ideal for this position room. Musab, how about you? Who's your guy for the day 3, secondary?
For me, man, I'm looking at Trey Dean from the University of Florida. He's a safety. I already mentioned some, kind of, qualities that these other guys in the first, second, or third, fourth round are, looking at. But I'll tell you this guy's got some natural physicality. You know what I'm saying? He's a low tackler. Bro, I'll tell you this. One kind of weak thing that I kind of identified out of him was seems like a crappy zone defender. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. So that's my only little worry. But, I mean, if we're getting him in the late rounds, I'll still take it. I'll tell you this, with some of these young Bucks, it just takes a little bit of learning, as long as you have, one part of the job done, or one part of the job application completed or something, I feel like you can really excel, but it's all about the heart, and this is where it really comes in, when you look at the 5th, 6th, 7th round. It's all about heart. It's all about how bad you really want it, because you're picked latest. You're picked in the later rounds, so you have to prove something. How many of these guys actually become relevant? Barely any of these guys. Maybe 1%, 2%. So you got to work hard. But I'm very optimistic that he's gonna shine. He's gonna shine. Maybe he gets snagged earlier. I'll tell you this: when it comes to a few positions like wide receiver and defensive back, I think it's very spread out. No matter how many of these reports you look at saying, oh, this guy is, first, he's going to be a first round. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy turns out to be a third rounder. And that guy that you were looking at who might be a third rounder, he could end up being a second rounder. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to DBs and wide receivers, those kind of positions, it all comes down to, the true skill and what the team wants, and how the scouts see it. So I am still thinking that, I'm looking at 5th, 6th round for this guy, for Trey Burke, or Trey Dean. So for that reason, I'm gonna go Trey Dean for the University of Florida safety. I think this guy's a baller. I think he has some things to work on, of course, but I'll be honest with you. I hope we don't get someone that late. It's going to be a shame, honestly. But listen, if we want to get some other guy in the first round, the only reason, I'll leave it at this: if we get a DB in the first round, I think we should get someone like him in the 6th or 7th round or something. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, no, we should let this position go. It's either first round and 6th round, or just or only first round or second round. And we don't even get another DB. That's about it. We sign some free agent. So this is like my last resort option. This is my little plan B kind of option. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, if they're waiting until the 4th or the 5th, 6th, or 7th round to spend a draft pick on the secondary, then they're probably in trouble. So yeah, I mean, I like Trey Dean for sure. Trey Burks was a pretty good point guard in his day, but
I don't know why I said Trey Burke, man.
Unfortunately, he's not available for this NFL draft. My guy is Mickey Garner. I'm going to LSU again. You know, he's actually at University of Louisiana Lafayette for the majority of his college career. Ooh la la, the Raging Cajuns. I'm a Louisiana guy in case you couldn't tell, but yeah, he's a fun guy. You know, he's a 5th-year senior, lots and lots of playing time. Pretty decent tackler. You know, he's decent in the zone. Just, you know, he'd be a good depth guy to maybe take a 7th rounder on, kind of similar to the Mr. Wright out of Oregon State, kind of a similar situation to him. But yeah, we've covered all of our prospects. We've covered all of our secondary guys, and only thing left to do is just do a mock draft, and that's next week. So I'm very excited for that episode. Definitely got to tune in. Speaking of which, thank you so much for the fan. Thank you so much to the fans. You know, we're nearing the end of the episode. So, you know, if you're liking what you're hearing, if you're looking to get some more, RBLR content, hit that like and subscribe button. Or you can also find us on social media at RBLR Sports. You know, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we've also started a TikTok account. So you got to check that stuff out too. Yeah, I mean, sharing is definitely the best thing you can do. So, you know, sharing is caring, as they say. Yeah, thank you again so much for listening. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.